So, word of caution, watch this to the end because I know I am going to piss off some people by what I'm about to say. So, ladies, you might want to take a deep breath because this involves you lot, and for the gents, sit back and watch me try and defend this position. I am of the opinion that women should not vote, and I sure as hell would not let them anywhere near the levers of power, at least not in the public sector. Now, once people have stopped doing this, I'm very thankful my audience are not the blue-head wenches that would screech to the skies at the first sight of a controversial opinion, so perhaps I can elaborate. Firstly, let me clarify. I am obviously not in favor of enforcing this on a federal level. I'm fully aware this is a very hard right turn away from my usual libertarian positions, but I will elaborate on this later in the video. By saying this, I am not suggesting that men are overall better. They obviously can and do get corrupted and do stupid things. This is a flaw of human nature, not gender, but power is the province of men, so to speak. Now, the first time I came across this position was Ayn Rand, who decades ago said with regards to a female president, "It is not in a woman's personal interest to rule man. It puts them in a very unhappy position." And in her opinion, no good woman should want such a position, and a woman commander-in-chief in charge of the army is unspeakable, and I happen to agree. Now, naturally, this kind of conversation is not remotely possible with any female even slightly left-leaning. You will just get a blue screen of death if you try. But I've had this conversation with a fair few women. First off, it is the world's most brutally effective feminist detecting technique, very handy. But I've also learned from this, women have a very complex social environment structure, a lot more complex than men, I think, and there's a lot women won't say in the public sphere because they'll face reprisal, likely from other women. That is probably a bit more obvious now with the advent of social media and all. And to quote the great Al Bundy, don't try and understand women, women understand women and they hate each other. But, funnily enough, I have also had more women agree with this position than disagree. Now, that perception is heavily skewed, very much predicated on the kind of woman that would speak to me about this topic, I'm well aware. But the reasoning is almost always the same. They think women are nuts. They would openly admit, "I'm a woman, I know how emotional and crazy we get. I don't want a woman with that amount of power. Men are more level-headed, and they can separate logic and emotion in a manner that women simply can't." Now, I would have some balls to tell women what to do given the topic of the discussion here, but ladies, if this is how you feel, tell men this. It is very empowering as a man to hear a woman say, "No, this is bullshit, you're a man, this is your arena, this is what you're built for, and this is your role." Men, Western men in particular, need to hear this, especially from you. Your word carries much more weight than you realize. Now, it very well might be because we live in the stupid Yas Queen Slay era of public politics, which is a total farce in my opinion, but it leaves me with the impression this opinion of females by females is a lot more common than mainstream culture would have you believe. Because for all of my edgy jokes about women, and I know I can be a bit rough around the edges, the women that can take the joke and volley it back my way, I consider those women badass. And let me tell you, those women are far from clueless. They can see where other women are, see they aren't effective in that position, and they take note. And they can see, much better than men, in my opinion, where the influence of females derail and weaken the structures. Or it could be the public outcry against men if they were to point out the obvious, who knows. The main point that I'm left with after these conversations seems to be, these women do not think other women have their best interest at heart. I don't consider that a controversial position. I think that is just natural skepticism of power. That's normal. Now, I'm going to go slightly off the rails here, but what fascinates me the most about this is the political leanings of the women who agree, because they tend to be more, tradcon or libertarian, and they're usually the individualist types. But even given their political leaning, they will still say, "No, there needs to be some limits here because the collective will suffer if we go down this road, so let's not." Which is in stark contrast to the feminist types who will be the polar opposite. They will use the collective group identity, female in this case, and use it as a means to further a personal gain. Case in point, the leftist women in Congress, who are a complete embarrassment. Do they actually represent or care about women? No, of course not. Hell, they don't even care about their own constituents in general, let alone the females. AOC is a perfect example. Wears a tax the rich dress made by a person who's got 3 open tax warrants, and that's just in one state. AOC is rolling in dosh and doesn't even care about her own family. She could have easily helped out her abuela in Puerto Rico when the hurricanes hit, but no, she tried to blame Trump, even though her aunt came out and said, no, they have the aid, it's the fault of the local government for not distributing it, that has nothing to do with Washington. And AOC didn't speak to any of the family about the situation. And it was the conservatives who raised the money, which was ultimately shut down by GoFundMe. So there we go, there's some food for thought. Hopefully I wasn't dismissed as some sort of crazy misogynist and I actually had some good points to make. And that's all for today. Until next time.